For a game to be successful, especially with a franchise or multiplayer experience, players need to get on board and stick around. A thriving community is the heart of a healthy game. While getting people interested can be easy, getting them invested is often the most difficult and critical part. One highly effective means of doing this is giving players chances for growth as they experience and play our games. But why does this engage players so effectively? And how can we give them these opportunities? Let's talk about it today on Draw 5 Move 5. Hey everyone, and welcome to the table. My name is Gabe, and this is Draw 5 Move 5, a show where we draw connections between the mechanics behind our favorite games. Allow me to set the scene. It's November 17th, 2020. Wizards of the Coast, the parent company to Dungeons & Dragons, publishes their most recent compendium of additional rules and player options for the game's massively successful 5th edition, called Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. Within its pages are some of the most robust character customization choices imaginable, from optional new class features, subclasses, and a new class in the Artificer, to rules for customizing backgrounds, skill proficiencies, races, and spells. This is arguably the most comprehensive, most complex, and most wanted rules addendum since 5th edition premiered in 2014. It's everything that a player who loves designing characters could want. It's also the end, until the next supplement anyway, of a long path. D&D, especially this edition, didn't become as popular as it is overnight. This journey started with an understanding at Wizards of the Coast that they wanted 5th edition to be the most accessible, most inclusive, and most culturally entwined version of the game to date. In an interview with The Escapist, Jeremy Crawford, one of the game's lead designers, said that 5th edition needed to be a big tent that had room for all of D&D. It's a wonderfully diverse game with many types of players with many types of play styles. This isn't your dad's Dungeons & Dragons anymore. It's not Mike, Lucas, Dustin, and Will hiding in a basement in Stranger Things because other people think it's weird. The game is largely accepted in pop culture nowadays, with entire web series like Critical Role and The Adventure Zone garnering massive viewer bases. The fact that it's in Stranger Things should tell you how popular it's become. To get to this point, the team started as simple as possible with the player's handbook. The game's rules are much easier for new players to understand than previous iterations, and while there are still plenty of class, subclass, and race options in this tome, the options available follow a natural progression of varied complexities and styles. There's a lot of room for players to wander and explore under that inclusive big tent Crawford and the team pitched. They left space for players to grow, something that is central to the construction of any long-lasting and enjoyable game. In this video, we're going to talk about why these opportunities for growth engage players so effectively, and what kinds of growth they experience so we can craft effective chances for them to evolve and enjoy our games. Growth is an immensely satisfying feeling. Knowing you did something better, understood something you didn't before, learning more about what you enjoy is incredibly fulfilling for people. And in our case, players. Each time they grow like this, they have a positive moment with the game, something that emotionally invests them in continuing. This is a positive feedback loop. By playing the game, a player grows, and by growing, they have an experience that makes them want to play more. Encoding a loop like this in the way a game functions is what makes many of the best games so successful. I started playing D&D to get closer with my new friends in college, but once I was involved, it became much more than that. Learning how to play new character classes, building new characters that fit certain ideas, defeating monsters and enemies with new strategies, having character moments and diffusing situations with words rather than conflict. As we had experiences in the game, we kept coming up with new characters and ideas to try, which kept us playing. That was 4 years ago, and we are still at it. By establishing this loop, encouraging players to stick with it, and being rewarded as they learn more about the game and themselves, designers receive a major benefit. The investment caused by growth opportunities leads to big communities that are enjoying the game, as we've seen with D&D and will see in other franchises as we continue talking, like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! While this is its own reward, it also means designers can do things like make a living in this industry. Big player bases, after all, mean higher chances for sales. Now, there are two primary ways that players experience gaming growth. The first is growth in skill. To clarify here, I don't mean something like a level up system in video games or tabletop RPGs. While important, they're the reward for growth rather than the opportunity. By succeeding with limited tools at your disposal, your adeptness and understanding of the mechanics are rewarded with more skills and options to incorporate in your strategies, or higher powered options to face off against deadlier foes. For us to create opportunities for skill growth, we need to give players options with varied complexity. By providing a range of choices from simple to complex, new players have a place to enter the game and start learning, while veteran players and those wanting a challenge can use more complex and difficult to master options. Simple options focus more on learning the game's core rules and mechanics. They have less customization and reduce the number of decisions players need to make in order to achieve that focus. In D&D, we can see this with player classes like the Fighter, Barbarian, and Rogue. There's one primary thing to focus on for each of the game's parts: hitting people in combat and being strong or sneaky outside of it. In the Pokemon games, we can see this with powerful attacking Pokemon like Alakazam and Gengar. They want to hit fast and hard, simplifying the game's combat system to pick the best move you have and fire away. And in Yu-Gi-Oh, we can see simpler strategies in basic OTK decks like Crusadia, where the basics of playing cards, battle, and combat damage are the main focus. Mid-complexity options are the next step, and expand on the player's previous knowledge and growth, introducing a few new ideas and mechanics or giving interesting spins on the player's current understanding of them. Hybrid classes in D&D like the Paladin and Ranger, where a small amount of spells and utility skills are added to the player's martial options, are one such example. In Pokemon, we can see this with Volcarona and Incineroar, who use boosts or have utility moves to make their attacks stronger or stymie opposing movements. And in Yu-Gi-Oh, decks like Unchained and Salamangreat introduce strategies like destroying your own cards to net advantage and diversifying your game plan to interrupt the opponent effectively. At the far end of this spectrum are our high complexity options. While the hardest to handle mechanically, they also offer the most room for experimentation and customization. D&D classes like the Wizard, Warlock, and Artificer, who introduce massive spell lists and utility options with their abilities, sit at this level of complexity. For Pokemon, we can see examples like Togekiss and Tapu Fini that focus on redirecting attacks and boosting the entire team, roles that are more nuanced in their strategy than simply attacking. In Yu-Gi-Oh, meanwhile, combo strategies like Dragon Link and Drytron, and control mashups like Invoke, Dogmatica, Eldritch stuff sit at this higher tier of complexity for the amount of interaction and high amount of choices a player has to make while piloting them. While skill growth is more about providing opportunities to grow at the game mechanically, the second type, style growth, is more about a player's personal preferences and journey. This kind of growth is all about the player discovering what they enjoy in the game, experimenting with new options to see what matches their playstyle best. As Crawford said, D&D has a massive breadth of players who enjoy doing different things, and many of the best games provide opportunities to customize how the player interacts with the game in pursuit of their favorite way to play. In order to create these opportunities for style growth, we need to provide a swath of mechanical options that play in different ways. In our Making Meta Strategies video, we discussed the CPR triangle, which mixes varying levels of consistency, power, and repeatability to create different playstyles like glass cannons, snowballs, and tanks. I'd recommend checking out that video after you're done here for a deeper overview. There'll be a little card in the corner. What they're called and what styles exist vary a bit by game, but generally using this method we can craft all manner of strategies with different strengths and weaknesses. For D&D, you can play anything from frontline attacker or tank in the Barbarian to a ranged attacker and spell slingers like the Wizard, and even support roles with varying levels of damage with the Cleric and Bard. They all have different focuses, and providing these options to the players gives them the opportunity to explore what mechanical identity they enjoy most, or to branch out and try something new if they're feeling adventurous. The same holds true with Pokemon, choosing team compositions and strategies to employ with a mix of attackers, tanks, and support roles. In Yu-Gi-Oh, meanwhile, players can utilize big combo decks like Dragon Link, OTK strategies like Crusadia, and control options that focus on holding the opponent at bay and slowly achieving a win, like the Sky Striker decks of yesteryear and the Eldritch mashups of today. Finally, we can create opportunities for style growth in not only mechanical preference but aesthetics as well. What a character, creature, or deck looks like, how it feels to embody the culture we associate with those ideas, and how we choose to make things look as a representation of ourselves are all a part of this, and all things we can provide options for. Skins and appearance customization in digital games, as well as character descriptions in D&D and other tabletop RPGs, are one example, but it's more than that. If a player begins D&D with a sword-wielding fighter and sees how their friend's bare-fisted monk fights off opponents with dazzling speed and grace, they may choose to try that option next time because it seems cool to them. They might put Togekiss on their roster in Pokemon because it's cute, or Tyranitar because it seems powerful and they like rock types. And they may play an Orcust deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! Because they like the twisted musical box themes, dark attribute, and machine typing. The introduction of lore is another aesthetic choice players can get excited about, like picking up a Yu-Gi-Oh! Archetype such as Orcust, Mech Knight, or Crusadia because it's a part of the World Legacy storyline that's been told over the past 3 years. There are a lot of ways to provide these aesthetic options for players, and it helps that visuals alone can draw players to pick up a game. Allowing players to grow with a game is a great way to get them invested in it, something many of the biggest and most successful franchises have used to their advantage. By creating opportunities for them to grow in skill and explore their favorite styles of play and aesthetics, we can plant the seeds for a healthy and dedicated player base starting at the design level. You don't need to be a company as big as WotC to have communities and games as massive as D&D. Thank you so much for watching. You have my humble and eternal gratitude. What did you think of the conversation? Do chances for growth seem engaging to you? Have they engaged you before? And do you have any favorite examples of their implementation that I haven't mentioned? I'd love to hear your thoughts, so let's keep this discussion rolling down in the comments. If you enjoyed the conversation, subscribe and dingling that notification bell so you never miss an update. I'm putting out new videos and games and gaming mechanics the first Monday of each month, and dropping a like lets me know that you want to see more. You can follow the channel on Twitter and Facebook at Draw5Move5. It's the best way to find any important announcements, get hyped for new videos, and see any other useful game design content I've come across. My name is Gabe, this is Draw5Move5. Until next time, go have a good game.